Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another week of breakdown and predictions, and this week we got UFC St. Louis. It's going to be headlined by Derrick Lewis. He's going to be taking on Rodrigo Nascimento. That's going to be in the heavyweight division. Derrick Lewis obviously is a household name, and he's going to be headlining another UFC event. And throughout the whole card, there's some fun fights, so definitely excited to break this one down. Just right before we get started, I want to talk to you guys about patreon.com/MPredictionGuru. Recently, we've been doing really well with our bets. We've hit huge props on back-to-back UFC cards, and this week we got a couple more. We're going to be looking to make some more money this week and continue this wave of success. We got some other cards that we're potentially going to have bets on as well that I'm looking into now. So definitely go over there, get access to more content. You're supporting the channel, and you're going to make yourself some money with bets, because I've been profitable every single year that I have tracked bets for the last 5 years. So that means that more than likely you're going to be making money if you go and tail me for any substantial period of time. So definitely check that out. And outside of that, hit the like button, put a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, and let's get into this fight card. And the first fight of the night, it's going to be in the women's flyweight division. It's going to be two girls that are veterans in the UFC, with J.J. Aldridge taking on Veronica Hardy. And J.J. Aldridge, she's been a UFC mainstay almost for 10 years at this point, and she's a very steady pro, someone that you know what you're going to get out of her when she's in the cage. She's going to bring a southpaw style. She's going to have good boxing. She's going to fight smart. She's going to be able to counter fairly well. She has pretty good timing. She has good distance control. She'll mix in her takedown. She can wrestle, and she has good cardio as well. So she's not someone that's going to usually lose a fight for herself. She's going to fight composed. She's going to fight to her game plan, and if you beat her, you're just going to have to be the better fighter on the night. And her opponent, Veronica Hardy, she originally came into the UFC. She was super young, and she was fighting in different weight classes. She started at 135, and she was very undersized for that weight, and then had some bad runs where, like, her last fight before her comeback with Bea Malecki, that was a horrible fight for her, where she came in really out of shape and just had a terrible performance. But it seems like she's realigned herself. She's gotten back into MMA a lot more. She's looking really diesel. I mean, she's lifting a lot of heavy weight during this lead up to this fight. So you definitely know she's going to be strong in the clinches and things like that. And just in general, I think that she's always had good skills, but she didn't know how to put it together in the past, and now I think she's getting there. She's becoming what she could potentially be, which is a very good fighter. And you look at Hardy, great footwork. She moves around really well. I think that's going to be a big difference in the fight. J.J. Aldridge, she's a little bit flat-footed. She likes to stay static and kind of play that pull counter game, whereas Veronica Hardy, she's going to be moving around and then popping in with multi-punch combinations. I think she's going to have a pretty big speed advantage. And I think that Hardy has pretty good ability to get up off bottom if she does get taken down by Aldridge. Her takedown defense is pretty good also. So I don't anticipate Aldridge being able to just grind her out with wrestling. And I feel like Aldridge, she is getting a little bit up there. Even though she's not necessarily super old or anything like that, she's been fighting top shelf competition for a long time at this point. And I feel like she's plateaued a little bit and even started to go down, whereas Veronica Hardy's on her way up. So I like Hardy in this matchup, and I feel like she is going to go out there and do her thing, look good. I think she's going to use her speed, use her striking, outstrike Aldridge pretty comprehensively, and win this decision here. And in this next one, we got Jared Gooden. He's taking on Kevin Jousset. Pretty good matchup here. It's going to more than likely be a striking fight. If anyone has success with the grappling, I think it's going to be Jousset, but expect these two guys to start banging it out as their first game plan. And they fight kind of similar. You know, you look at Jared Gooden and Kevin Jousset, they both kind of have that lead hand down. They like to use that kind of modified Philly shell defense. And I think Jousset, he is a little bit more polished with the jab, and he is a little bit more active. He's going to throw a little bit more volume, which is going to be probably a big difference in this fight if it's close, with these guys kind of tit for tat in each other in the stand-up. Gooden, he has an okay jab as well, but really with Gooden, he's looking to land that check hook over the top and knock you out with it. He has power, and I think that Kevin Jousset is a little bit hittable. So to me, that's a little nerve-wracking because Gooden is someone that could change the fight with one punch, and we've seen him do it before, like in his last fight with Wellington Turman. But Gooden is someone that has bad defense. He doesn't move his head. I feel like Jousset is going to potentially eat him up with the low kicks and be able to use that jab, kind of nullify the power and the explosiveness of Gooden a little bit, and then open up and really tee off on him. And Jousset has that judo in his back pocket, so if he does want to bring it out and use it here, I think he potentially could. But I'm going to go with Jousset. I think Gooden has a puncher's chance. I think there's an opportunity for him to potentially land and get Jousset out of there. But if he can't do that, I think Jousset is going to win this one, more than likely via decision. And if he wins late, I wouldn't be surprised either, but I'll say Jousset via decision. And this next one, this is a really intriguing fight right here, a flyweight bout between the hometown guy, Charles Johnson, taking on Jake Hadley. And Charles Johnson, he's been a guy that's been a little bit frustrating in the UFC because you see the skill level that he has, you see his ability, but he's just been on the wrong side of decisions, and his inactivity has cost him in certain fights. But his last fight, we saw his potential come to fruition. He went in there against an undefeated guy in Azat Maxim, and it wasn't an easy night in the office either. I mean, that first round, he really got beat up pretty bad. He got dropped, he got hurt a couple times, but rallied, won the second round, won the third round, got that victory, and now he's looking to build some momentum and kind of potentially get back into these marquee fights against some of these opponents that he's lost to already. And in front of him is going to be Jake Hadley, who's coming in here off of a loss. His last fight was against Cody Durden, and that fight was a little bit ago at this point, so it's been a decent layoff for Hadley, but he fought in that fight with Durden, and it was a good fight. I mean, he had Durden in some big trouble in a couple moments, almost submitted him, but ultimately he couldn't get the finish, and Durden was just able to outwork him on the feet and take him down and grind him out as well. So impressive performance from Cody Durden, but Jake Hadley had nothing to hold his head down about on that night, and now he's going to be trying to come out here and get a big-time win over the former LFA champ Charles Johnson. But you look at how these guys match up, I mean, very good matchup. I like both these guys boxing. Jake Hadley, he also kind of uses that Philly shell kind of defense, and he'll slip and rip. He has a good jab, good straight overhand right. He attacks the body really well and very aggressive early, and that's something that could potentially come into play in this fight because you look at Charles Johnson, his last fight, and a couple of his other previous fights, he gets hit early and he can get rocked early, and as you get older, Charles Johnson's done a really good job of recovering and then coming back into the fight after that happens, but you could potentially end up getting finished one of these times if you keep getting rocked and hurt early in the fight. And Hadley is someone that comes out really hard and tries to finish you in that first round. I believe the majority of his wins are first round finishes, so I wouldn't be shocked if he came out here and kind of steamrolled Johnson if he can land a big shot early, but if he doesn't, then the striking is definitely going to more than likely be competitive because you look at Charles Johnson, once he starts to get his range, get his rhythm, he could put combinations together. And Hadley, even though he has decent defense, it's not the greatest. So I definitely think Charles Johnson could land. And as the fight goes on, Charles Johnson tends to up his volume and build on the numbers, whereas Hadley doesn't have as much experience in these longer fights. So it definitely could play out close if it stays standing and goes a full 15 minutes. And as far as the wrestling, the grappling goes, I feel like Hadley has the better offensive submission game. Like, he is very good at catching submissions and scrambles. He attacks and goes all out for him. Whereas Charles Johnson, you don't usually see him attacking very many subs. It's more defensive grappling, which his defensive grappling is really good. And sometimes he'll mix in the takedowns, but I feel like both these guys don't have the greatest takedown defense, but they're dangerous if you do take him down, especially Hadley. So I don't know if Johnson's going to want to take him down and be in his guard or kind of initiate scrambles and things like that. So I expect Johnson more to want to keep it on the feet, where I think Jake Hadley will be a little bit more willing to make it more of a wrestling, grappling fight and may have that game plan in his mind coming in here. But it's a tough one. I'm going to go with Jake Hadley. I feel like it's a close fight, and I'm going to go with the younger guy that I think could have improved during this time off. Maybe that loss to Durden kind of got him hungry back in the gym, and we're going to see a better version of Hadley here. So Charles Johnson, he also has that motivation to fight in front of his home crowd, but I just think Hadley is going to win this one. So give me Jake Hadley in this fight. And up next here, we got a great fight. I think it's going to be a fight where someone is going to get knocked out with Billy Goff and Trey Waters. It's going to be at 170 pounds. And, man, I mean, great matchup here. You see Trey Waters. He is the tallest guy in the welterweight division. Him and Robelis now, I guess, are both 6'5". But great reach as well, 77-inch reach. So he's going to be 6 inches taller. He's going to have a 5.5-inch reach advantage. So the guy is definitely going to be a lot bigger than Billy Goff in there. And Waters is a guy that he likes to use his reach too, because he baits you a lot. He'll kind of stick his chin out there, try to get you to come forward, and then he pull counters you with the stinging straight punches, nice jab, and he really throws power with his shots. So he's a clean striker when he lands. He can land accurate shots too, but he's throwing hard. He's trying to knock you out, and we've seen him get some nice one-shot KOs. His last fight, he fought a really tough guy who was able to hang in there over 3 rounds, but kind of battered him, showed that he could do well over 3 rounds cardio-wise. But I feel like Quinlan wasn't really giving him that fight that I think Billy Goff was going to give him. He was hanging back. He was trying to be all the way out and all the way in, exploding in with these blitzes, and trying to do that against such a tall, long guy, I don't think is a very smart game plan. So I don't see Billy Goff doing that. I see Billy Goff looking to pressure, get on the inside, and when fighters have gotten on the inside with Trey Waters, he throws a lot of wide punches and can get a little wild, and that's where people could take advantage of him, and that's where Billy Goff is going to want to be. But Billy Goff, man, I mean, the guy's fun to watch, but extremely reckless. He's someone that goes in there, he gets dropped in almost every fight that he's in, but he's able to rally, come back, and take his opponent out, usually via knockout himself. It's not a style that I think is conducive to long-term success, but while he still has this ability, he's going to be tough to beat because he just has great toughness, and his power is on point. I mean, the guy, if he touches you, he could change the fight, and that's another big factor that he does have. So he's able to, pressure, get on the inside. He throws punches and bunches. He's super wild and unrefined, but he attacks the body, comes to the head, he's throwing with power, and he can overwhelm you, and he can knock you out clean. He has the power to do that as well. So definitely dangerous. He will mix in some wrestling, get some takedowns, and has some good ground and pound, but don't see him being able to take down Trey Waters here. It's going to be really hard to take down someone that tall without really good technique, and I don't think Billy Goff is that guy. So he's going to have to get on the inside and make it a brawl, and if he could do that, I think it's going to become a lot more of a 50-50 fight. If Waters can keep him on the outside or snipe him, he's probably going to knock him out. So just going to be a battle of who can kind of implement their will and get in the range that they want to be in. And ultimately, I'm going to go with Billy Goff here, but this is a fight that I feel like is pretty close. But I'm going to say Billy Goff wins the underdog here and gets the win via first or second round knockout. And up next here, we got a fight that I'm not going to spend a ton of time on because I've been wavering back and forth, don't really have a great read, so not a very confident prediction. But Tabitha Ricci versus Tisha Pennington. Obviously, Tisha, she's coming back after a really long layoff off of pregnancy, and that definitely throws a monkey wrench into looking at her as a fighter, because a lot of the time, you don't come back looking exactly the same your first fight back, and she's going to be taking on someone that's not necessarily an easy opponent with Tabitha Ricci, who is coming off of a loss, but before that was undefeated at 115, was looking good in the UFC, and is improving. So It's going to be an interesting fight. Tisha Torres, she's usually someone that is more athletic than her opponent by a pretty good margin. This one, it's not really going to be that. Ricci is going to be just as athletic, if not more athletic than Tisha at this point. So that's going to be a different dynamic for Torres. But Pennington is the better striker. She, in my opinion, puts together her combos a little bit better. And if she can get her game going where she can blitz in, blitz out, and come into range with those combinations, then I see her being effective with the striking. But Ricci is getting better with her straight punches. And Ricci could potentially time those blitzes, get takedowns, or land some straight punches as Pennington comes in. And I was originally leaning with Tecia, but I'm going to go with Tabitha Ricci. I feel like she's just going to be a little bit sharper overall and be able to get the job done here. So give me Tabitha Ricci to win this one via decision. And up next, we got a firefight right here with Terence McKinney taking on Esbon Rivix. Anytime Terence McKinney gets in the cage, someone's more than likely going to get finished pretty quickly. And Esbon Rivix is someone that also brings that action. He has a lot of knockout wins and is a fun guy to watch, a young guy that's getting better. So this is going to be a really high-action fight, in my opinion. I think it's going to be, I don't know if it'll be under 1.5. More than likely it will be. I think that line's kind of crazy juiced. I see a lot of people playing that line, but it's definitely going to be someone getting finished, I think, before the third round comes around. But Terence McKinney versus Esbon Rivix. McKinney, I think, like always in every one of his fights, has a good chance to get the job done early in the first round, especially if Rivix comes in like he has in a lot of his fights, recent, like, you look at his fight with Thomas Paul on Contender Series, he comes out brawling right away, gets rocked. And same thing with Loic Radzhabov. So if he comes out there and just tries to brawl in the first 10 seconds, 20 seconds of the fight with McKinney, we've seen what happens when you try to do that before with guys like Matt Frivola. So Rivix could get put to sleep real quick if he does that. But you have to think, knowing McKinney's style, what he brings to the table, that he's not going to do that here. But, habits die hard. We'll see what happens. And also, McKinney has a good chance to get that takedown, take the back, and find that rear naked choke as well. Because Rivix, I just don't know if he has... He definitely doesn't have the greatest wrestling. His grappling has looked decent in terms of his get-ups, his submission defense. He was able to not get submitted by Kamuela Kirk, who's a black belt, over 3 rounds, even though he's in some pretty bad positions. But McKinney, if he can take that back early when he's fresh, I definitely think he has a chance to get that rear naked choke. So that first round is going to be the danger zone for Esbon Rivix. And if he can get out of that first round, I think, like most people are saying, and like a lot of McKinney's fight materialized to be, he's going to take over the fight. So if Rivix can get out of the first, his composure, his boxing is going to come into play, his good body shots. He does a good job of finding the chin, and he'll throw in combinations. So if he can get out of the first round, I think he's probably going to get that second or third round finish. But I see this as pretty much a 50-50 fight, because I do think that McKinney has multiple ways to win early, and Rivix isn't someone that has a ton of experience. He is a young guy, so I don't necessarily know exactly if he's going to fight the smartest here, and that could be his downfall. But I'm going to pick Rivix to get the win, and I'll say he wins via second round knockout. And up next here, we got another fight that I don't see hitting the scorecards with Chase Hooper and Vyacheslav Borchev. And completely contrast the styles to a fight. UFC 1 style fight with Chase Hooper being the grappler, Slava Borchev being the striker. And that's pretty much what it is, man. I mean, Chase Hooper has improved his striking in terms of, you look at his fight with Nick Fiore, you look at his most recent fight with Jordan Levitt. I mean, not so much, I guess, in that one, but the fight with Nick Fiore especially, he threw a lot of volume, he was throwing elbows, he was throwing straight punches, and if you aren't the greatest striker, you get tired against Hooper. He can come forward, he can use his length and awkwardness, throw straight punches, throw side kicks and that taekwondo stuff that he's been learning with Wonder Boy, and do his thing and win in a stand-up battle. But he doesn't have that power, he doesn't have the snap, he doesn't have the defense, and in the southpaw versus southpaw matchup, Hooper hasn't really fared the best in the striking versus southpaws. He's a hittable guy. When he just doesn't see that left hand, it doesn't seem like the greatest, or the right hook when guys are in southpaw, at least not when he fought Steve Garcia. But if he can get this fight to the ground, even if he's on his back, it doesn't really matter. Anywhere that he can make it a grappling match, that's going to be his world, and he's going to have a great chance to finish there. He can finish the leg locks. If he can get on top and get in a dominant position, he can pound him out. He could submit him. So Hooper, if he can get it to the ground, is going to have a great chance to get the finish. But fights start on the feet, and Slava Borchev's a kickboxing world champion. He's someone that puts together combinations really well. He rips the body. His left hook is nasty. He's accurate. He's clean. He doesn't necessarily have crazy power, but he will eventually be able to finish you because he just puts precision shots together really well. And if Hooper can't get it to the ground, Borchev will find his rhythm and start to tee off on him and get him out of there, I believe. And training with Team Alpha Male, you saw in his last fight with Nazim, his takedown defense looks a little bit better, but other fights, he's been taken down pretty easily. Hooper, though, I just don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be able to take down Borchev. So, to me, that makes me lean a little bit more towards Borchev. Off his back, Borchev is really bad, and he tends to turtle and give his back up. So, if he gets taken down against Hooper, I think it's going to be over. But I'm going to go with Borchev via first or second round knockout. I just feel like Hooper's not going to be able to get the takedown, and Borchev's going to be able to light him up on the feet. So I'm going to go with Borchev, but to me this is a fight that could honestly go either way. And kicking off the main card, we got arguably the most hyped prospect at heavyweight right now, Robelis Despaigne, taking on Waldo Cortez Costa. And Waldo Cortez Costa, he definitely has the experience advantage coming off a win over Andre Arlovski, who is someone that has more experience than anybody, and Cortez Costa was able to beat him in a really, lackluster fight where he was saucing on him and just, it was a bad fight, but Waldo got the job done. Robelis Despaigne, if we keep it real, he hasn't fought really anybody. The only guy that he's fought that's even decent is Parisian, and I guess he did fight this big, tall guy that was in Fury, that was I believe 4-0 amateur, that was an amateur champion for Fury, so maybe that guy was okay as well, but ultimately, he just really has limited footage, and he hasn't really fought the best opponents. But Cortez Acosta, it's kind of a, you'd think it's a good matchup for Robelis, even though Robelis is wild, and I don't think he has the greatest boxing. His power is undeniable, and Cortez Acosta is going to give you that boxing fight. He's not necessarily a defensive wizard, so Despaigne's probably going to get him out of there early, just like he has everyone else to knock him out. We've seen Cortez Acosta knocked out before, not in MMA, but in boxing. So I just feel like that's going to be probably the more than likely outcome. But there's just too many questions with Despaigne at this point that we don't have answered in terms of, can he even take a punch? Is he going to be good in the second round? Can he come back from adversity? So we're going to have to continue to learn things about Robelis Despaigne, but I just don't know if Waldo Cortez Acosta is going to pose him those questions where we're going to learn anything in this matchup. So I think Despaigne's going to win this one again via first-round knockout, probably early on in the fight. And, give me Robelis Despaigne. And this next fight, we got featherweight bout between Alex Caceres and Sean Woodson. This one, tough fight to predict for me. I don't like the odds. I don't like Woodson being an almost 2-1 favorite. But I still just can't trust Caceres to me. Even though Caceres has overachieved and done really well, especially more recently in his career, even coming off a loss, he's definitely established himself as a pretty high-level guy in the weight class, whereas a few years back, people were questioning if he still should be in the UFC. So, shout out to Caceres, but it's just, I can never find myself fully trusting the guy. But this is an interesting matchup. Woodson's another one of these St. Louis guys that's on the card, so he's going to have the crowd behind him. And both these guys are long, lanky. Woodson still has a pretty significant advantage in the reach and the height in this fight, but Woodson, I feel like he's going to throw more volume. He's going to be the sharper boxer. He's going to have that point fight style where he's going to more than likely win. If he doesn't get hurt over 15 minutes and it goes to decision, it's a stand-up fight. But Caceres is someone that is tricky, and he comes over the top with some nice, fast, long strikes, and he can mix in that head kick. He can potentially circle and get to the back. And Woodson, we saw in his fight with Luis Saldana, he struggled a little bit with those shots over the top, like those fast, straight punches. So Caceres could potentially get to him with that and hurt Woodson or out-grapple Woodson, where I think he has a big advantage in that area. But I see Caceres probably playing that point fight on the outside and losing on volume more than likely. I just think that he's going to not find that shot that hurts Sean Woodson. He's not someone that necessarily usually has big power anyways, but I just feel like he's not going to be able to find that shot. He's going to settle into a kind of like a sparring type of pace, you hit, I hit type of pace, and I think Woodson's going to be able to be a little bit more technical in that type of battle. He has that little bit of length range advantage as well, and I don't think Caceres is going to be able to hit the takedowns. If Woodson doesn't get wild and overextend or give him a chance to take the back, then I think that it's going to more than likely be a striking fight, and I think Woodson's going to edge it on points. And this next one, we got a really good fight. We got Diego Ferrera taking on Mateusz Rebecki. And Carlos Diego Ferrera, he has been in the UFC for over a decade. He has a really, really good resume of fighters that he's fought. He's beaten some really good guys, but 39 years old at this point. He's had some issues making weight in previous fights, and he's even had, fights like versus Gamrot where he's had to stop the fight due to injuries. So I feel like he is taking a little bit of wear and tear, and we're going to see how many more fights he has in him, but he's a gangster, man. He takes any fight that the UFC gives him, and he's taking on a really high-level guy coming up in the rankings in Mateusz Rebecki. Rebecki undefeated in the UFC. He's 3-0, but he hasn't really fought great opponents. This is definitely a step up in competition, but you look at his opponents outside the UFC, he's fought some good guys. He's fought some guys that have become KSW world champions and other fairly high-level opponents. So he's not someone that is going to be out of his depth fighting a guy like CDF. And I think for Mateusz Rebecki, he could make this fight pretty easy if he uses his pressure striking, his boxing, his head movement, gets on the inside, slips and rips on him, puts that pressure on him, puts that pace on him, and avoids wrestling and using his wrestling grappling that he likes to do. I think that would be the best path to victory for him, because I feel like CDF is not the greatest striker. Even though he got that knockout win over Michael Johnson, he was getting beat up pretty much that whole fight, and his speed has diminished quite a bit. He isn't as good fighting off the back foot as he is when he comes forward. And I think that if Rebecki can pressure him, he's going to take away that front kick to the body that CDF likes. He's going to take away the leg kicks that CDF likes, and I feel like he's going to have the better boxing, faster hands, go to the body, where CDF sometimes can be a little bit weak to the body. But if he mixes in that takedown and gets on CDF's guard or creates a scramble, then CDF is one of the better grapplers in that weight class, and I definitely think it could get interesting. And if CDF could push the pace with the grappling, maybe they'll both get tired. It could make the striking a lot closer. So I think if Mateusz is smart, he's just going to keep this one standing, pressure, win with the boxing, and I'm going to predict him to do that and win this one via decision. But could get interesting if he goes back and makes it more of a wrestling match. But I think that Mateusz... And this next fight, it's another explosive matchup in the light heavyweight division with Alonzo, Manfield, colliding with Carlos Ulberg. And both these guys have done really well recently. They've been winning their fights. They've been on a roll. So the winner of this one is probably going to get a top 10 guy next. So there's a lot on the line in this fight. And Alonzo Manfield, very explosive guy. Someone that comes in, he likes to land that check hook, and if he can land it on you, he can put you to sleep, he can rock you. He comes with the 2-3 combinations. He has nice 1-2s, and he'll throw that big overhand, and he also mixes in the takedown. So I feel like in this fight, Manfield has to try to get the wrestling going, get on the inside, make it more of an ugly fight, and he can't let Ulberg slow the pace of the fight, make it his style where he's kind of picking his shots from the outside, sniping Manfield, using his length, using his accuracy. And if he can do that, then I think Manfield's going to have a lot better chance to win, because anytime he can be on the inside swinging with Ulberg, if he can land clean, he's going to have the ability to potentially knock him out. If he can make it a fight where he can hit some takedowns, and that's going to give him more of a chance to win a decision as well. So I think Manfield just has to make this fight ugly. And for Ulberg, he has to use that lateral movement, use his footwork, stick the jab in Manfield's face, time the straight punches, and just be that cerebral sniper that he's been fighting like recently. Ulberg, he had that fight with Kenny Nzechukwu where got overzealous and kind of lost his gas tank, blew his gas tank going for the finish, and got finished himself. And since then, I think he's learned his lesson from that, where he's been a lot calmer. He's been able to go 3 rounds and have the cardio to do it. He got it finished like in the last second of his fight with Dong Jung. So I think that Ulberg is getting better. He's fighting smarter, and he has the ability to keep this fight on the outside and snipe Manfield up and win this one via knockout or decision. And he just can't get wild with Manfield, and he has to be mobile. He has to be smart. I think that the fact that they're in a bigger cage is positive for Ulberg here. And I'm going to go with Ulberg to win this fight via knockout in the 3rd round. And in the co-main event, we got Joaquin Buckley. He's taking on Nursultan Ruzabayev, and Buckley pretty much begged his way onto this card. He stole the mic but he came to the mic at a fan Q&A, basically asked Dana to be the main event, and didn't get his wish in terms of that, but he got the co-main event, got an opponent in Nursultan Ruzabayev, who is someone that people are looking at as a potential high-level prospect, so it's a chance for Buckley to put another good name on his resume and continue his ascent at 170 pounds and do it in front of his home crowd. And for Ruzabayev, I think he probably jumped on this opportunity. He was going to fight, or he did fight Cedricus Dumas, and technically got the win there, but it was kind of a controversial, weird finish where it was an eye poke that became a TKO, and Ruzabayev got the job done. But now he's taking a huge step up in competition where he's taking on someone that's established as one of the higher level guys at 170, who's had success at 185. And if he can beat a guy like Joaquin Buckley, he's going to be right near the top 15, maybe even get a top 10 guy next. So it's a chance for him to skyrocket up the rankings quickly. And both these guys have looked really good in their wins. Obviously, they usually get the finish, but Buckley to me has proven a lot more. I mean, he's fought a lot higher level opponents, and I've been really liking how Buckley's been looking recently. He has good footwork. He cuts angles well. He can mix in the takedowns. He obviously has that power, explosiveness, solid boxing. His head movement is pretty solid. Obviously, whenever you have Buckley fighting a long guy that throws nice straight punches down the middle that could hit your chin and has power, that's a little nerve-wracking, because we saw Kevin Holland turn the lights out on Buckley. We've seen other guys turn the lights out on Buckley. So his chin isn't necessarily the greatest, but I think that he's gotten better. He's gotten a little bit smarter with how he fights. In this fight, I think it's a little deceptive because he has the same reach in the arms as Ruziboev. So I think that even though Ruziboev is, 6'5" to 5'10", they're going to have the same reach in the arms, which is pretty crazy. And I think that's going to help Buckley land even when he doesn't look like he's necessarily in range as much as Ruziboev is, and potentially get the takedowns. Ruziboev, I think if he wins this one, it's going to have to be an early finish for him where he uses that dynamicness, that kind of aura that he has right now, and catches Buckley early with the big 1-2 and knocks him out, or catches him with a head kick, something wild, and gets him out of there. But even though Ruziboev is training at a really good grappling gym, I don't think that he's going to have closed up that wrestling hole that quickly, and I think Buckley is going to expose that. I think he could take him down. One thing about Buckley that I really do like about him is he has really good cardio, and for Ruziboev, this fight coming back down to 170, I don't exactly know how his cardio is going to be. I know he weighed under 185 for his last fight, but that's a lot of weight, extra 15 pounds to come down, and it's 2 weight cuts in pretty quick succession for Ruziboev and Buckley, but I feel like Buckley, it's a lot easier cut from him, and he's done it a lot more recently. But cardio-wise, I think Buckley's going to hold up better too. So give me Buckley here. I think he could win second or third round finish, and I think he's going to do it probably on the ground with ground and pound. And last but not least, we got the main event. We got another heavyweight fight with Derrick Lewis headlining against Rodrigo Nascimento. And to me, Derrick Lewis has to be the favorite, and I got to pick him to win this fight. I see some people going with Nascimento here, and I get it. I mean, he has the leg kicks. If he can get on top, he can kind of ride Derrick Lewis out like we saw Almeida do in his last fight. But Rodrigo Nascimento, he just hasn't fought the same level opposition that Derrick Lewis has fought. And at heavyweight, I think especially, experience is very critical. You need to fight these higher level guys and take your lumps, it seems like, to get to the top. At least most fighters have to do that. And Nascimento, he's been able to kind of incrementally get better and beat these guys that are slightly better, but he's never been someone with the athleticism and size and power of Derrick Lewis. And that's what's made Derrick Lewis a top 10 mainstay for years in the UFC, is just his sheer size, his athleticism, and his pure power. I mean, all that put together, especially when you got a guy that's willing to wane into the fire and has ability to take some damage and keep coming. Even when he looks tired, he still maintains his power. You got a recipe for someone that's pretty dangerous in the heavyweight division. And with Nascimento, even though I think he's a little bit more skillful, he's probably a little bit better everywhere. The probably cleaner striker, definitely the better grappler. I've seen him get rocked by guys that are not the greatest. Alain Badeau, I've seen him get hurt by other lower level guys. So I just feel like Derrick Lewis still has enough to explode on this guy, rock him, get him out of there. There's going to be 5 rounds for him to do this. I don't think that Nascimento is going to finish him on the ground. I mean, we just saw Jailton Almeida, who I think is a better finisher on the mat than Rodrigo Nascimento, be unable to finish Lewis on top, in mount, in dominant position for almost the entire fight. So I don't think Nascimento is going to be able to submit him or finish him with a ground and pound or anything like that. And even though Lewis doesn't have the greatest gas tank, like I said, he still maintains his power over 5 rounds pretty well. So I just feel like at some point, probably early, but even if it has to be later in the fight, Derrick Lewis is going to catch Nascimento, hurt him, and knock him out. So to me, Derrick Lewis has to be the pick in the main event here. I think he's going to get this one done via knockout and move on, get another victory, and kind of maintain his position as a fun main eventer that can get knockouts and fun performances, bring in the casual fans. And I think Derrick Lewis is going to get the job done once again here. So there you have it, guys. That's my full card breakdown of predictions for UFC St. Louis. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something from this video. And outside of that, as far as my most confident pick goes in the parlay of the week, for my most confident pick, I mean, I could say Mateusz Rebecki, but honestly, I'll just say Veronica Hardy is my most confident pick because she's someone that's in bettable range, and I do think that she's going to get the win. I'm pretty confident in that, so I'll say Veronica Hardy. And for the parlay of the week, I'll go with the parlay of Carlos Ulberg, Mateusz Rebecki, and Robelis Despaigne. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing another betting breakdown with Fitz. That's going to be at 9 p.m. Pacific time, so come check that out live. Would appreciate you guys if you came into the chat, talked, we're interactive a little bit, and join us for that stream. And besides that, hit the like button. Let's try to get over 100 likes on this video. I would really appreciate that. Put a comment down below. Go to patreon.com/HandPredictionGuru. Let's win some money this week, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching.